What is up, you guys? It is me, Kami Raijin, bringing you guys today a new video. Now, as you can tell by the title of the video, I'm talking to you guys today about my top 10 favorite fighting type Pokemon. Now, you guys might not agree with this list at all, I understand that, but this is my favorite fighting types. Now, let's get into this bombing video. Coming in at a solid number 10, Pangoro, the fighting dark type Pokemon. Now, for those of you who know Pangoro, he was introduced into Generation 6, and honestly he's been on the scene since. Like, Pangoro is one of those fighting type Pokemon that if you know your opponents are running ghost types, or if you're afraid of a ghost type, you know, Pangoro is definitely the Pokemon you need to have because of his hidden ability Scrappy, which allows him to hit ghost type Pokemon, something that the fighting types have never been able to do. Now, Iron Fist and his abilities Iron Fist and Mold Breaker, they're alright. If I had to choose one over the other, it would be probably Iron Fist, just because it boosts up his power, his punching moves, but that could be a hindrance on him as well. But it just depends on how you use Pangoro. Now, Pangoro's base stats all around, minus his attack and his health, are kind of crap, I'm not gonna lie. His attack is pretty good, his attack's solid, and his health is, it's not bad, but it's not good. But yeah, Pangoro honestly is definitely a Pokemon you want to have on that team if you are going up against ghost types, just because of his hidden ability Scrappy, because there's not a lot of fighting types. Actually, I don't think there's any other fighting type but him that can hit a ghost type with a fighting type move. But I could be wrong. But on to the next one. Keldeo, Keldeo, Keldeo. The mighty Keldeo. Now, I like Keldeo. I really do. He's a solid Pokemon. He is a water fighting type, which was introduced in Generation 5. Yes, Generation 5. When they portrayed Keldeo in, or when portrayed, but when they showed Keldeo in his movie, honestly, he was a little bit standoffish, but it gave him the attention that he needed. Because honestly, Keldeo's ability Justified is not good. Like if you go up against dark type Pokemon, then yeah, you know, maybe. But I mean, it's a waste of ability, to be honest. Keldeo's stats all around aren't too bad, except for his attack. His attack's kind of lacking, but his special attack is definitely pretty good. Now, you guys are probably saying, well, if he's an alright Pokemon, then why do you have him as number 9 on your list? Because of the fact that his stats and the moveset that he can get. I was just talking about his special attack, which is being really good. Now, if you could take his special attack, which is already good, increase that with Swords Dance, and then use Sacred Sword, bruh, it is amazing. I mean, you can run Keldeo multiple different ways, but me with Keldeo is Swords Dance, Sacred Sword every day of the week. But yeah, so that's Keldeo. On to the next one. Coming in at number 8, the thing that gives every fighting and ghost type nightmares, Marshadow, the fighting ghost type Pokemon, introduced in Generation 7. Whew, Marshadow. Whew. There's so much to talk about Marshadow, to be honest. Now, Marshadow's ability Technician is, it powers up his weaker moves, or its weaker moves because it doesn't have gender, but it powers up its weaker moves, which that ability can come in clutch a lot. Stat wise, Marshadow is pretty good, minus on his defense. But I mean, honestly, when you have Marshadow on your team, you don't really need it. To be honest, you really don't need it, because with your speed, with Marshadow's speed and attack being, you know, pretty high stat, 9 times out of the 10, you usually will probably hit first, and you'll probably really hurt. And especially with it, Marshadow being ghost and fighting, you're more than likely not going to get hit by any physical attacks. So, I mean, yeah. But, I mean, there's not much to talk about Marshadow. Marshadow, honestly, is just a freak of nature. But now you're probably thinking, if Marshadow's so good, why is he only number 7? Or, sorry, number 8. Because of the Pokemon that are up and coming, I just find them a little bit more useful, and I just like them more. But Marshadow is definitely a Pokemon you want to take on your team. Especially like if you're going for like competitive Pokemon or anything like that, Marshadow is definitely a secure option. But enough talking about Marshadow. Let's get on to the next one. Number 7, Infernape. Now, Infernape has gotten a lot of attention over the years. A lot. Especially coming in as a fire fighting type Pokemon from Generation 4. Now, Infernape, honestly, I feel like Pokemon tried too hard to make him the Pokemon to take out Blaziken, just because Blaziken is also a fighting fire type from Generation 3, but with his abilities Blaze giving his fire type moves, it powers up his fighting type moves, and then his hidden ability Iron Fist was just his punching moves. He's alright. His stats aren't the best, but it's how you can use Infernape is what makes him good. Like, obviously that's what makes anybody good, but Infernape is really one of those Pokemons you really want to stick to, like fire type moves and anything that involves punching. So like Mach Punch. Now, time out. Mach Punch is the move to put on Infernape. If you do not have Mach Punch on Infernape, you are not using your Infernape to its highest degree. Doesn't matter what ability you have on there. Mach Punch on a Infernape needs to be a thing. On to the next one. Como. My favorite dragon fighting type Pokemon. Now, actually, fun fact, Como, I know I'm pronouncing his name wrong, but that's just how I'm going with it. Como is honestly one of my favorite dragon types, like not just just because he's a fighting type, but it's because he's a dragon type too. Makes him one of my favorite dragon types as well. But Como was introduced into Generation 7, and he came in with a bang. His defense, honestly, is freaking ridiculous. He has become the Generation 7 Dragon Tank. And I say that, but he's not just a tank. He's a tank that can hit one shot. He's like, that's what I mean by a tank. Not that he can take a lot of damage. He can take a lot of damage and deal the damage too. Like, his defense is the best thing of his stats, but his special attack, special defense, and attack is amazing. His HP and speed are, they're not as good, but I mean, his rest of his stats make up for it. Like, Como is a beast of a dragon fighting type. There are so many different ways to use Como that it's ridiculous, honestly, because you can use Como just for your strict meat shield. His defense and special defense will be able to take care of it. So, but like I was saying, he is a legitimate tank. Can take damage and can dish it at the same time. So if you guys are seriously thinking about doing competitive Pokemon, Como is definitely a Pokemon to use for your team, just because of the fact that he can deal damage and dish it too. Yeah, there's a lot more, there's a lot more Pokemon that you could use for tanks or for, dealing damage. But Como, you get the best of both worlds. But I'm rambling now. Enough about Como. Let's move on to the next one. Number 5, Meloetta. And you're probably thinking, Meloetta is not a fighting type. Meloetta is a normal psychic type. You're wrong. Her Proet form, I think that's how you pronounce it. But it's her other form. It's not her Arya form. It's her other form, her Proet form, I believe is how you pronounce it. But I'm probably butchering it. So when you get Meloetta in her Proet form, she goes from a normal psychic to a normal fighting, and then her ability Serene Grace, which boosts the likelihood of added effects appearing. Me personally, every time I've used Meloetta in her Proet form, her ability Serene Grace really hasn't kicked in, so I don't 100% know how her ability works, but all I know is that she's a really good Pokemon to have. Because her attack is ridiculous, her speed is ridiculous, her HP is alright and defense is alright. Speed, special attack, and special defense they're alright, I guess. But I mean, with her attack and speed, just along with some of her moves, just make her, they basically lock her in at my top, on my number 5 spot, just because. Like, Meloetta is honestly a really good normal fighting Pokemon. But so I mean, if you guys know how her Serene Grace ability works, just go ahead and leave a comment, and I will definitely look more into how Serene Grace works, because, like I said, I know it causes other effects, but every time I've used her, I've not seen of these effects come into play. But enough about Meloetta. Let's go on to the next one. Now, before you say anything, yes, number 4 is Medicham. Reason being, I've always been a fan of Medicham. Medicham was introduced as Generation 3's fighting physic type. And to be honest, Medicham has stayed in the game. Medicham was so good enough to get a Mega Evolution, and Mega Medicham is even better than Medicham. Now, Medicham's stats are kind of crap. I won't lie. They are kind of crap. But they're good at the same time. Her abilities are Pure Power, which raises her attack stat. Then there's Telepathy, which anticipates an ally's attack and dodges it. So, Medicham, basically in a nutshell, is one of those Pokemon you want to have in a team fight, especially with the Telepathy ability. Well, Medicham can do like one-on-one play with Pure Power. Telepathy definitely for team battles. And like I was saying, her stats aren't that good, but I'm not talking about just Medicham. I'm talking about Mega Medicham. Now, Mega Medicham's her attack and speed stat got a boost, and her hidden ability got taken away. So all she has is Pure Power. So it raises her attack stat. So Medicham or Mega Medicham, Medicham 2. Medicham is definitely a Pokemon that you could play around with moveset wise. But if I'm being 100% honest, if you're gonna have a Medicham, I would definitely keep like Zen Headbutt and High Jump Kick on her, just because those are like two of the best moves that you could probably put on a Psychic type or a Fighting type, and she can have both. So definitely that for a Medicham. But enough about Medicham. Let's get on to the next one. Yes, you see it right. Gallade. Gallade's Psychic Fighting type of Generation 4. Ooh, I was so ecstatic. Okay, for those of you who don't know me, because I know I haven't really talked about this much, I so much like this evolutionary line from Ralts to Kiarla, and then if you have if you have the male can evolve into Gallade. But the thing is, there's a twist. If you do not use the Dawnstone on the male, it will not evolve into a Gallade. It will evolve straight into a Gardevoir. Now, I'm just saying, Gallade over Gardevoir, I'll take Gardevoir any day because Gardevoir is one of my favorite Pokemon ever to be had. Like, ever. But Gallade, Gallade's still good in his own right. Now, his stats, they do kind of suck, yes. His attack, though, and special defense are freaking amazing. I mean, amazing. Gallade is basically what you would call a glass cannon. But, I mean, a lot of people would disagree. But Gallade is a Pokemon, like, yet again, who you have a lot of room to play around with. And when he goes from Gallade to Mega Gallade, his attack goes from ridiculous to mind-blowing. Gallade is honestly probably one of the Pokemon that has the highest base stat of attack for Megas. Probably one of the highest, in my opinion. And not only does his attack get a nice boost, his defense does, his speed does. I mean, obviously his HP and special attack do as well, but not as much as the others. But if you guys ever get a Ralts out in the wild, don't just don't shoot straight for that Gardevoir. Give Gallade a try. He will not disappoint you, I promise. Like I said, he has a lot of room to work with. But I'm going to stop rambling about Gallade. Let's go on to the next one. This Pokemon was the king, the god, the one you wanted for fighting types. Blaziken. Blaziken. Oof. This Pokemon brings up so many good memories for me. For those of you guys who don't know, Blaziken was introduced in Generation 3 as a measly Torchic. Yeah, all the time you took a look at that Torchic and you're like, I don't want you, you're too weak or you're stupid. You just passed up on a Blaziken. Blaziken was literally the best Pokemon to have in Generation 3. Hidden ability is Speed Boost with his ability Blaze, which Blaze is honestly really good to have on Blaziken because it powers up his fighting type moves, but Speed Boost, you could probably take a guess what that does. It obviously ups his speed stat gradually. But you thought this guy was already godlike? Next, let me introduce you to his Mega Evolution. And boy, let me tell you what. He went from being God to being a God Slayer. Like, Mega Blaziken, they took his stats, gave him a huge boost in everything. I mean HP, attack, defense, special attack, special defense, and speed. They made him broken. And it honestly, yeah, the moves you had on Blaziken would determine whether you had a good Blaziken or not. But a lot of the moves that that Blaziken has, honestly is so easy to work around. Now, you're probably thinking, if Blaziken's such a god, why is he number 2? Oh, let me give you this doozy. Let's go on and get into my number 1. That's right. You're seeing it right. Lucario. Now, Lucario was also introduced in Generation 4 as the Fighting Steel Pokemon. His abilities, Steadfast, raises his speed every time he flinches. Inner Focus allows him to be protected from flinching, and then he has Justified. Abilities, he got a short end of the stick on the abilities as well. His stats, they're not the best, but they're not the worst. And Lucario is one of those Pokemon that will show up, beat everybody there, and then walk out. Here's where he gets good. His ability that they gave him for Mega Lucario is Adaptability, which powers up the moves of the same type. Lucario honestly is just a god, in my opinion. And his shiny is amazing as well. That yellow, ooh, can't get enough of it. I know what I run in my teams when I go out fighting random trainers. Leave a comment down below what you guys thought of the video. Make sure you let me know what your favorite fighting type Pokemon is, and if you agree with my list or if you disagree. Because I know there's a lot of people have their own different opinions. So, I mean, we're human, so we're supposed to. But that's it for today, guys. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe for your boy, Kami Raijin. I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.